Like, I'm so serious, sir.
They don't have a bathroom here for you.
Oh my God.
33rd?
Okay. I don't know where that is.
Probably.
So basically, I'm going to jail.
Yes.
On August 30th, 2024, officers responded to a credit union in Pine Hills, Florida, where a suspected fraud was unfolding in real time. Marcus Hill attempted to withdraw funds while the victim, Barbara Williams, filed a fraud report at another branch. This case presents critical questions about probable cause, evidence seizure, and the legal boundaries of fraud investigations.
Good afternoon, Bobo.
Hello, how you doing?
I'm good.
Good. Oh. Is he still in the...
Hey, can I have you come to the third office with Mr. Hill? Mr. Hill is the recipient of imposter funds.
Okay.
So we have another member that is at the Dyer location right now who got an imposter call. Mr. Hill is taking on about $17,000 of that money from his account. So the money left her account.
From someone else's account.
Correct. Left her account, went into his account, and now he is taking that money.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. And he's in the room right now?
He's, yeah.
Okay. She's gonna take us to the room where he's at. Okay.
I need to speak with OPD about the funds that came in.
Yeah, what about it?
Okay.
You can sit down. You can have a seat. Yeah, have a seat, bro. Yeah, no worries. You got any weapons on you?
Not at all.
Here, I'm just gonna pat you down, alright? Go ahead and stand up for
Tell
me.
me to sit down.
Yeah. Make sure you got no weapons on you.
I'm just leaving work.
Alright, you can take it. So we're just trying to figure out what's going on today.
I'm trying to figure out too.
Yeah, so there's money that's been transferred into your account. Where did that money come from?
I had one transaction supposed to came in from Barbara Williams.
And how do you know Miss Williams?
Through her son, I did work for them.
You did work for her son?
Yes. So what's the problem?
So Miss Barbara is saying that that money is that is stolen funds from her account and was
Oh
transferred
wow,
into
I
your
don't know
account.
about that.
So you said the other person outside of the other branch.
Yeah,
Is still.
Miss Barbara is at the other location filling out a statement right now that
Okay.
that was an imposter that took over and then transferred that money to her to Mr. Hill's account.
Oh, see, I don't know nothing about that. I only did a little work for the dude named.
Yeah, you have an idea?
I got everything, sir.
See this one? Thank you.
Oh,
So you did work for her son?
yeah, for a dude named Neil, Williamson Neil. And he was supposed to pay me, and he got my information. And before he transferred money to my account, and then he got my information and did it again. And I just came to make a withdrawal.
But is that person, you're saying that person is her son?
That's what I was told.
You need to settle those.
That's what I was told. He was like, I'm getting the money from my mom, and I'll send it to you. And that's how that went.
What was the guy's name?
William Neal.
William Neal?
Yeah.
And William Neal is supposed to be Miss Barbara's son. And
Can you get 270? You're on a 29P by Florida ID number?
he's the one who
Excuse me.
transferred the money.
So what am I supposed to do?
I have no idea. We're here to help you figure that out.
Wow, man.
What do you do for a living?
Yeah.
I build roller coasters and homes, and I also, on my side work, I do a lot of remodeling for the home. I did paint for him. I did painting, and I put in some windows.
Painting and windows. And
Yeah.
how much was, like, I guess the job supposed to be?
It was supposed to be like a $6,000 job.
Okay, 6,000 altogether?
Yeah, because
6,000.
he still owe me money.
Okay.
Where do you live now?
I stay right here in Pine Hills.
So it was a The full payment was $6,000?
Yes.
So why did he transfer more than that to you?
I don't know. How do you do that?
Well, the account has received more than $6,000.
My deal was only for $6,000, and that's it.
Yeah, you've taken out more than $6,000. And that money all comes from the same place. Do you have William Neal's contact information?
It's not in this phone. This is my actual personal phone.
Not in this phone?
Yeah, my other work phone. I should have knew something was wrong with this dude, man.
Do you have another office that we could kind of use for him?
Yeah, we can go to the other office.
Okay, and we'll just talk to you to kind of get
That's fine.
our
Yeah,
story.
let's go, yeah, you guys can go over to the
Mr. Hill.
office with the door.
Mr. Hill.
Yes, sir. Can we, one second, see, that's part of one of my businesses. I got the truck and all
Yellow
that.
Dog?
Yeah, we'll just go in this office right here for now.
We'll stay with him, and then
Go to the next one over.
The next one over.
all right. So explain to us what we got.
Hey, would it be okay, because they just separated me and Mr. Hill. The officers have a few questions about the situation. Would it
Fine.
be okay if I can put you on
Already sent it to
speaker
the
right
OCSO
now?
and
Can I
the
give you the phone? Could I give the phone to could you speak to our risk department? Is that okay?
Sure.
Okay, awesome. That might
Are you able to
work
put them
best.
on speaker?
Yeah.
That'd be a little bit. Because
I
they're
mean,
both here, so.
Oh, okay, okay.
I'll close the door if need be.
We kind of
Yeah.
want
All right, so I'm gonna put you on
Just
speaker
stand
and have them come
Actually, I'll
over,
trade
okay?
spots and move
All right,
wide.
just a moment. Jennifer?
Yes.
Okay.
Hey, you got police officers here from OPD. Just kind of wanted to know what we got.
Hello. Good afternoon. My name is Jennifer, and you're here with Melissa, the AVP of Risk Management. So what we're dealing with is one of our members received an imposter phone call. The person stated they were working for McCoy Federal Credit Union. They obtained her login credentials and logged into her online banking and did 3 transfers totaling $19,000. Those transfers were account-to-account transfers, so the funds went into this account for Marcus Hill. Marcus then utilized the funds by Apple Cash, ATM withdrawals, and withdrawals in the branch.
Okay.
Has he made all 3 transactions today, or has it been longer than just today?
All 3 transfers, I believe, were done. Hold on 1 second.
It's like 19K transfers. It's gotta be longer than 1 day.
So 2,500 left on the 28th. He did 1,000 to Cash App, Charles Logan. Then there was another 57.50 from Miss Barbara's account.
So this one was another woman.
All right. So there's a member that
They're
may be
both
the victim.
members, yes.
Okay, both members, but another member.
Correct. Our other member is at Dyer. Dyer is Osceola, correct?
Kissimmee.
Kissimmee. So
So-
she's at that branch right now.
The transfers were made on the 27th, the 28th, and the 29th.
Okay.
And we spoke with the victim, Barbara. She has a son, but her son's name is David Michael Williams.
Okay.
And Mr. Marcus Hill just mentioned the son's name of William Neal, which is incorrect.
Okay. So we're kind of thinking that someone was defrauded out of their money from their account and it was transferred over.
Yes, Barbara was defrauded,
Okay.
and we believe Marcus Hill to be the suspect.
Okay. All right.
All these transactions taking place.
Our
in-
loss is $17,000. We have $2,000 on hold. The $2,000 is what Marcus was trying to take just now out of the account.
Okay. $17,000 total losses over the last couple of days, and then $2,000 on hold. What he was trying to do today.
Right, so the total transfer amount was 19,000, that's the intended fraudulent amount. But
Okay.
he has 17,000.
Okay. All right. We're gonna need. So you understand this, and as a representative of the bank, are you able to write us a statement? Because I'll have these guys. Okay. All right. I think I got the story.
We have Barbara state the victim, can we send that over to you?
Yeah, absolutely. If that's something you can
I'll
handwrite or
for
print
you.
that out.
No, I'll print that for you. Okay. Would you like to speak with the victim?
Not yet.
Okay, not yet. Well, so for example, he said that the job that he did for the son was a $6,000 job, but he received two payments, one of like $9,700 and then another payment of like 5,000 something. So it far exceeds.
Yeah, 6,000.
What he's telling us he did.
I would probably tell him first.
Yeah, Mr. Hill, we're getting ready to leave. I have your phone here as well as the watch that we are taking for now as evidence. Do you want to provide me with the PIN codes?
Taking my phone for evidence for
Yes. The whole reason why we're here today.
Yeah, we're gonna try to get your phone back as quick as we can to you. But if we don't have a passcode or anything like that, then they got to sit there and run codes on it, and it
Takes longer.
Takes longer. So this is the easiest way to do it.
Could I use the bathroom? It's coming down. He'll tell you, I've been here about 25. I had to use the bathroom before I came in. Like, I'm so serious, sir.
They don't have a bathroom here for you.
Oh my God. Nah, I hate to do it, but I'm gonna have to use the bathroom.
All right, we gotta go outside. Come on, man.
I'm sorry.
Under Illinois v. Gates, probable cause exists when the totality of circumstances creates a fair probability that a crime occurred. Here, officers had victim testimony, bank records showing $19,000 in transfers, and the suspect's admission of withdrawing $17,000. The suspect claimed he performed $6,000 worth of construction work, yet received more than triple that amount. Under Florida Statute 812.014, knowingly obtaining another's property with intent to deprive constitutes theft. The willful blindness doctrine applies when someone deliberately avoids knowledge of obvious red flags. Accepting $19,000 for a $6,000 job qualifies. The suspect also claimed the client was William Neal, son of Barbara Williams. The victim's actual son is David Michael Williams. This identity discrepancy is a hallmark of imposter scams, where fraudsters pose as trusted contacts to manipulate victims. When officers seized the suspect's phone and smartwatch, they followed Riley v. California standards. Riley established that while police may seize electronic devices during lawful arrest, they generally need a warrant to search digital contents. The officer properly requested passcodes voluntarily rather than demanding them, which would raise Fifth Amendment concerns. The initial pat-down was justified under Terry v. Ohio, which permits protective frisks during investigative detention. Importantly, Miranda warnings were not required during early questioning because the suspect was not yet in custody. His voluntary statements, admitting receipt of funds, inability to contact the alleged client, became admissible evidence. Under Florida Statute 901.15, officers may arrest without a warrant when they have probable cause to believe a felony occurred. Grand theft in the third degree involves property valued between $750 and $20,000. This case falls at $17,000 withdrawn. The penalty range includes up to 5 years imprisonment, 5 years probation, and a $5,000 fine, plus mandatory restitution. From a tactical standpoint, the officer's approach demonstrated professional restraint and constitutional awareness. Using open-ended questions rather than accusatory language often yields more voluntary admissions than aggressive interrogation. The officer consulted bank representatives to verify claims before making the arrest, avoiding premature action. One procedural note: the bathroom request created minor friction, though officer safety and evidence preservation take precedence. The suspect's decision to answer questions without invoking Fifth Amendment rights or requesting counsel proved legally devastating. Each voluntary statement strengthened the case against him, creating an evidentiary record that would be difficult to overcome at trial. The bank representative deserves recognition for excellent fraud detection, preventing the final $2,000 withdrawal and contacting police immediately. Cross-referencing between branches and recognizing the imposter scam pattern demonstrated strong institutional fraud prevention protocols. Performance evaluation: The officer receives a B+ for professional investigation, with proper legal compliance and minor communication improvements needed. Marcus Hill receives a D for poor legal choices, including waiving rights, providing inconsistent statements, and failing to recognize fraud indicators. The bank representative earns an A for excellent fraud detection and law enforcement cooperation, with questions only about earlier prevention measures.
Oh, shit. Oh, shit.
Okay.
Is that his?
And you were just there when I asked the guy, I told him that this actual one cuff is too tight. That's another thing, I can't hold this shit.
So what you're saying is if he loosens it up a notch, you'll be able to hold it?
No, I'm saying I gotta go. That's what I'm saying.
Okay. I don't think anybody searched him yet, so.
Okay. Guess my car one. What'd you look?
Mr. Hill, I never got an answer. Do you want to, like you said, it takes longer if they don't have the passcodes. It's only your face?
Yeah, it's my face.
There's no numbers. There's numbers on your phone, on your watch.
Yeah, on my watch.
Do you know what it is?
1978.
19 what? Shit. And what about the phone?
The phone is my face. My stepdaughter set that up for me.
Okay.
All I have to do is put my face in.
Yeah, usually it has both, but.
I understand, but that's all I have to do. Oh, shit. I have nothing. Just enough work. Oh, my wallet.
I can tell you this to go.
Oh, okay.
Oh, my triple 5. I don't want
I
to
can't use bathroom nowhere.
When we get there, use that.
How far is there?
33rd? Okay.
I don't know. I'm not familiar. I don't know where that is.
Probably 10 minutes.
So I'm going to jail.
Yes. 10 minutes. Watch your lane.
Let's go. That's all.
3 critical lessons emerge from this case that apply universally. First, always invoke your Fifth Amendment right to remain silent and request an attorney before answering police questions in any criminal investigation. Voluntary statements cannot be retracted and will be used as evidence. Silence is not an admission of guilt. Second, legitimate business transactions require documentation, contracts, receipts, verifiable contact information, and payment records. Accepting large sums without verification, especially overpayments, creates legal exposure even if you believe the transaction is legitimate. Third, financial institutions serve as the first line of defense against fraud. Unusual transaction patterns, rapid withdrawals, and identity discrepancies trigger security protocols. Understanding how banks detect fraud can help legitimate customers avoid false flags while protecting against actual criminal schemes. This case demonstrates how quickly probable cause can be established when documentary evidence, victim testimony, and suspect admissions align. The 13-minute timeline from initial contact to arrest reflects efficient investigation rather than rushed judgment. Whether Marcus Hill was the architect of this fraud or merely a money mule in a larger scheme, Florida law holds him accountable for his role in the theft. Behind the $17,000 stolen is Barbara Williams, a real victim suffering real loss. Fraud is never a victimless crime. Let us know if there is an interaction or legal topic you would like us to discuss in the comments below.